today, Abu, has done an amazing job. Also, Tanvir Islam, I've had a lot of connection with you. Christina, who will also be present at COP, and of course the other amazing board members who have produced a great job. So, for the One Earth think tank, the focus is on well-being, nature, sustainability, and food security. And this is really important, especially as there's now the world is more leaning towards right-wing policy. And therefore, we need to stress the importance of these aspects if we want to better the world. Now, I would like to welcome our program guests and speakers. And I would also like to thank you for hosting this event. It's of great importance, as I cannot stress enough, and it means a lot to me. And therefore, I would like to yield the floor back to the other speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chila, for that enlightening presentation. Now let's move to our main agenda, higher study and research opportunities. And here I would like to mention one thing, that there is some little bit change in our speaker or guest list due to our script. Our first speaker is Bima Thapwa, but here is the first speaker is here is Sabrina Bush. Now our next segment divides into the impact on research within the realm of One Health. Joining us now, Sabrina Bush, an Erasmus International Masters student who will provide insight into her research experience. Welcome, Sabrina. The virtual stage is now yours.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Let me just share my screen really quick. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here on a Saturday morning, at least morning for me here. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about my journey in science, as well as a little bit about my research looking at respiratory viruses that I did at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, in the United States. So I titled my talk, Breaking Through the Ice, My Journey in Science, because I'm going to use the analogy of an iceberg to sort of illustrate the ups and the downs that a career in science can have. So without further ado, when you often have speakers that are being introduced in their biographies, they're going to list their highlights. And so for me, I would consider this to be the tip of someone's iceberg, is sort of the highlights, the good things that you want to sort of advertise about yourself. And so if you look at sort of the overview of my science career, you might see that I graduated with a degree in biology from the University of Northwestern in Minnesota, which is my home state where I'm from. You might see that I then worked at the National Institutes of Health, and I had a publication come out of that, that I've presented at a couple conferences. And lastly, that I'm now doing a master's in infectious diseases and One Health. And while these are all great things, there was a lot of hard work that went in behind the scenes of this, and lots of ups and downs and failures along the way. And that's a little more what I want to talk about next. So if we zoom out and look at sort of the depth or the events that are beneath the iceberg that really support what is happening at the top of it, that allow you to have the tip of your iceberg or those good things happening in life. And I want to begin with how I first became interested in science. So about a decade ago, I was in secondary school or high school at the time, and I met and befriended a girl named Destin. Shortly after, I learned that she had type 1 diabetes, and at that point I didn't really know much about type 1 diabetes, just the name or the words. And I quickly learned that it was an autoimmune disease. And
Sabrina, sorry to interrupt you. I'm not seeing that your slides are not moving.
Oh, Okay, sorry. Let me stop sharing and then try again.
Sure.
Okay, is it on the second slide now?
Yes, in the second slide. And can you move one more slide so that I can know it's moving? Yes, it's working. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for letting me know. All right, so back to my introduction to science. But I was learning how to help test and change for insulin pumps, and this really sparked my curiosity for medicine and wanting medicine and human health more broadly. Looking at, wanting to learn more about how we could find a cure for diabetes and how the immune system worked and why it was failing in her case. And so that led me to my undergraduate degree, like I mentioned, at the University of Northwestern. And I enrolled there with the intention of going on to medical school because of, sort of my previous experiences and this interest in science and specifically in human health. I did 3 years there, and then I decided that it might be good to get a summer internship, research experience, because I hadn't had much research experience. So in 2020, during my third year, I had applied for some research opportunities, received a handful of rejections, but ended up being accepted for one at Purdue University. And about a month later, in March 2020, as everyone knows, the world shut down because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So life was, disrupted on a number of factors. University was now online, and I was back to living at home, away from my friends. And my summer research internship was canceled as well. And so I felt like at that point, everything that I had been working towards throughout my undergraduate degree to get some, led to the summer internship, and then that was taken away from me, which was pretty hard to deal with at the time. I think most people could say the same about those, about 2020, that there was a lot of, heartbreak and upsets and hardships that we all had to deal with. But I, went back to doing some self-reflection and decided that, I was just going to move on and see what next step I could take towards continuing on to medical school if, research was not happening that summer. And so I ended up taking the medical college admissions test, or MCAT in the US, is the entry exam for medical schools. And then that next spring, I received my biology degree and graduated. And I had applied again for some summer internships and then was rejected from all of them, including the same research program at Purdue University. So that just goes to show that you really, I guess, with summer internships or similar programs that you're applying for, it can be a lengthy road to getting a position that is working out. And even if you maybe have a good application on paper.
Sabrina, do you hear me?
Yes.
I think again there is some problem with your skin.
With the slides again?
Please change one slide that I realize that it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, there might just be a lag maybe with the Wi-Fi, perhaps.
It's fine. Sabrina, go ahead. I know we have
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, after my undergrad degree, I again wanted some more research experience because I had had some patient care experience already. And again, the COVID-19 pandemic had also emphasized the importance of, of One Health and the interconnectedness of our world and how quickly that a virus can spread and take over. And to me, that was really fascinating. And I ended up applying for a post-baccalaureate research position at the National Institutes of Health. And this is basically a program that allows people who have recently graduated from their bachelor's or their master's, predominantly from US universities, to go and conduct research in a lab. So it works by sending in a general application to this big database, essentially, and then you find labs that you're interested in working with online, and you can email the principal investigator or a lab member to see if they have open positions and to hopefully secure an interview. And so this whole process took me a couple months. I emailed a lot of people and had a lot of no responses, or people that had just told me they didn't have an open position at the time. I did one interview that went pretty badly. However, I think it was 3 months from when I had first applied, I had received an email randomly from a postdoc in a laboratory at the Vaccine Research Center that had found my application based on the keywords that I had inputted and wanted to set up an interview. And that ultimately led to me securing this position, which I was very grateful for and has had a very large impact on sort of my future career goals now. So broadly, it was in the laboratory of Dr. John Mascola and Dr. Richard Kaup, and we were looking at human antibody responses to SARS-CoV-2 and to respiratory syncytial virus after vaccination. So now we'll dive in and talk a little bit more in depth about this research. So one of my bigger main projects that I was working on was really SARS-CoV-2 antibody discovery, which was a field that a lot of people were doing in 2021 and, well, starting in 2020 and even now. This has been a big field because of the variants and the evolution of the virus escaping a lot of the common therapeutic treatments or therapeutic antibodies that have been developed. So this project was taking recipients who had received the mRNA 1273 vaccines, anywhere from 3 to up to 5 times, because this was an ongoing study, and looking at the SARS-CoV-2 spike positive or spike responding B cells in these recipients, and then sequencing them. And then I was also involved in producing the antibodies corresponding to those B cell sequences, and then testing them for binding and neutralization against the evolving list of SARS-CoV-2 variants, and then going back to doing sequence analysis to see if we could identify sort of common antibody or common B cell lineages that were developing in multiple people. Because that's really where, in therapeutic antibody research, you want to have an antibody that can be effective in multiple people and against multiple strains of your virus, that it's not, your virus won't escape and become ineffective or become resistant, essentially, to your antibody treatment. So this was a very fascinating project for me because I was able to see the SARS-CoV-2 research happening on the front lines, and as well as just the resources at NIH, which I'll share a little bit more about at the end. But I was able to attend a lot of seminars that looked at the epidemiology of SARS-CoV-2. We also had a lot of international collaborators that were doing, sequencing in their regions of the world. And I think this was a good example of, or the pandemic itself was a good example of not just the, scary effects of the interactions between humans and animals and globalization and pandemic spreading, but also about how research can be very collaborative and international and really come together to get, solutions, to get vaccines done quickly, sort of when we all put our minds to it, and when there's a dire situation. So this was a very fascinating project for me because I was able to see the SARS-CoV-2 research happening on the front lines, and I was able to attend a lot of seminars that looked at the epidemiology of SARS-CoV-2. We also had a lot of international collaborators that were doing, sequencing in their regions of the world. And I think this was a good example of, or the pandemic itself was a good example of not just the, scary effects of the interactions between humans and animals and globalization and pandemic spreading, but also about how research can be very collaborative and international and really come together to get, solutions, to get vaccines done quickly, sort of when we all put our minds to it, and when there's a dire situation. So that was one of my main projects that I was working on. But the other one that I was working on was related to respiratory syncytial virus. So to give a little backstory, let's see, a few years ago, or maybe 7 years ago, there was a lot of work done to develop respiratory syncytial virus vaccines. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is one of the common cold viruses that pretty much everyone is infected with throughout their life, but it causes more severe disease in babies or young children and the elderly. So the NIH had run a vaccine trial with a protein subunit vaccine that was based on the RSV fusion protein, which is the main protein that I'm showing you here that is involved for establishing an infection in humans. And this RSV fusion protein has two different conformations. It has the pre-fusion conformation as well as the post-fusion conformation. And the colors here represent the different epitopes that humans can make antibodies against. And generally antibodies that target the pre-fusion conformation, which is the state that happens before your virus binds and infects your cell, those antibodies are going to be more potent. So this work was done. Actually, very excitingly, this vaccine candidate was the basis for the RSV vaccines that were just approved this fall in the US. Although they're not quite the exact same vaccines, but the technology was used in the current newly approved RSV vaccines. So work had been done to characterize antibodies that were induced by this vaccine. And so my project came in as a follow-up to that to look at one specific antibody class, which I will show you here. So this antibody class induced by the vaccine was found in 5 of the 6 recipients, as well as 1 infant and 1 adult who did not receive the vaccine but were just naturally infected with RSV. These antibodies were all very potent in neutralizing. You can see D25 is sort of the best RSV antibody that we have as a control and to be used therapeutically as well. And these antibodies are all have very similar IC50 values to neutralize the virus at a similar potency. But what was unique about these antibodies, in addition to their potency, is that they only target the pre-fusion conformation. And so when we went ahead and did structural studies on them, we saw that the antibodies here in blue were actually binding at the base of the RSV pre-fusion conformation, which if you look over here on what is sort of the figure that everyone has used to find RSV antibodies over the past 5 years, you can see that this class of antibodies is actually targeting this region down here at the bottom that has not yet been characterized. So this project that I was working on that has now just actually been published in September 2023 of this year characterizes this class of antibodies as being site 6 binders, so a new or novel epitope on the RSV pre-fusion protein here down at this membrane proximal region. Okay, so that's a summary of my research at NIH. I know that was maybe a little in depth, but I think overall what I could take away from my time at NIH is that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of pandemic preparedness, and that it really is a collaborative effort that you need medical doctors, you need researchers, you need international collaborators, because pandemics are really not just, well, the definition of pandemic is that it is not just localized to one region, but that it's an international effort. And I think the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic can also illustrate this need for sort of greater collaboration across sectors of animal health and measures of preventing, spread to human health as well. Okay, so going back to my analogy of the iceberg, you may think that after NIH, life was easy. However, I had applied to medical schools while I was working at NIH, and I was actually rejected from every school that I applied to. So again, goes to show you that while some things may be working out in your favor, that's not a guaranteed thing for the future, but it's also a sign that, when one door closes, another door will be opened. So while I was sort of in the process of this medical school admissions cycle and receiving these rejections, I started to consider some alternatives, which is what led me to find the Erasmus Mundus International Masters in Infectious Diseases and One Health, or IDO program for short. And as I was researching this program, I realized, when I thought back to my initial encounters with science, that I was fascinated in human health, but my time at NIH had really showed me that I didn't necessarily need to be working with the patients, but that I was very interested in sort of disease epidemiology and how specifically viruses kind of evolve and cause pandemics, and then finding ways to prevent that, so the therapeutic development side of it. And so that pretty much leads me up to my time now. I just started this program this fall, but afterwards, I don't want to make too strong of projections, as I've hopefully shown you that as much as you plan, that life may not always work out how you think it's going to. But I am hoping to continue on and actually do a PhD in immunology or virology. So lastly, if I just want to share some, my tips for maybe aspiring students that are, figuring out what next to take, either academically and professionally within the field of science. So I think it's important to keep reminding yourself of your why, but also to keep evaluating it, that as you get older, your why can change. For me, it did. I no longer want to do medical school, which is a dream that I had for many years, but that's okay. And I think it's important to just be following your passions at the time. And if you're following your passion, that you will be okay and you will end up where you're supposed to be. And then secondly, to seek out mentors that are going to encourage you, and to not be afraid to cold email and to network with people, because it can be very intimidating, but people are very open to helping you. And, within science, we all just want to see each other succeed. So don't be afraid to make those connections as well. And then lastly, as you've seen, I've predominantly worked in and attended school in the US, so my experiences are a little more limited to that. However, I just want to point out that the NIH Office of Intramural Training and Education has a YouTube page as well as a website that has a lot of great resources for exploring different careers, exploring opportunities, even for international students or international researchers to go to the NIH, as well as just they have a great series on how to become a resilient scientist, and just talking about themes in science overall. So this is a great resource for people to use as well. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. So thank you all for coming along with me through my life iceberg, and I would be happy to take any questions now.
Thank you, Sabrina, for the insightful perspective of research impact. Now it's time for all of you to engage directly. We're moving into our Q&A session shortly from our audience. If there is any specific question to our speaker, you are welcome to ask your question via our chat box, or if you want to ask the question, you unmute your speaker and ask your question, please. Okay, Sabina, do you hear me?
Yes.
From some of our audience, we get some question previously. They want to know, you grew up in USA, but now you are in Europe for your higher
Yes.
study. People always seek a chance to get in USA, but why you are from USA to Europe?
That is a good question. Yes, I know that oftentimes a lot of people want to go to the US for um, higher education, and there are plenty of good schools for that there. Um, for me, like I mentioned, we at NIH, we do a lot of international collaboration, but I really wanted to experience laboratories that operated a little bit differently, maybe, or just sort of build those, like learn how to work with people from different cultures and to live in and experience different cultures myself. I think that's pretty important to, shape your perspective and shape your state of mind, is to be able to kind of become, I guess, maybe uncomfortable and to learn about other cultures, but not just through, reading about them, but through actually experiencing it. So for me, that was part of it was the cultural aspect of it and wanting to experience different, a different environment. And then secondly, the Erasmus programs are a great opportunity. I don't think they're advertised enough in the US, honestly. And just specifically the master's program where you get to travel around to different countries. I think Beam will talk a little more about that. But with our specific masters, we spend one semester at 3 different universities. And I think that's not something, to my knowledge, that you can really do in the US. And I think, the Erasmus program in general is, a great education opportunity.
Okay, I think Abu Said, one of our participants, he have some question to you. Abu Said, please ask your question.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity for questioning. So my question is to Sabrina. So how you will direct one undergraduate student whenever a student doing the undergraduate, so he or she is not sure about that what he or she will do in the master's program, how in which subject they will go, which topic they will go. They do not understand, or whenever actually they understand they are at the last stage of their graduation. So how you will direct an undergraduate student for One Health research in the future? What student must need to do if he or she want to do the research in the One Health? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was sort of at a similar situation where I was at the end of my time in undergrad and thought I wanted to do medical school, and then that didn't work out. So I think as much as you can make connections and talk with people in different fields, I did a lot of this as well. So sort of informative interviews to see if you're not sure what area of research you want to go into, or if you want to do a master's, or if you want to or what field that you would want to do in. If you can talk to people and ask them, what does your daily life look like? What's the environment of your lab, or what what do you enjoy about your job? What do you not enjoy about your job, or your position, or your field of research? And then so I think that'll help you. If the more you connect with people, the more resources that they can share with you. And I think it does come down to being able to see all of the options that are available to you, because there's usually more options than you might think, and it's not as limited. But you do have to do the active research or the active work to find those resources and learn about maybe new careers or new pathways that you didn't know about before. So as much as I think you can talk with people, in all different fields, maybe ones that you don't think you're interested in, but maybe that could turn out to be something that you are interested in as well, and ask them for connections of other people to talk to. Yeah, I think that's my biggest advice. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Abu Said, for your valuable question, and also thank to Sabrina for nicely answering this question. And also a question from our audience. You are right now you are in Europe, and you grew up in USA. What is the difference between the structural or educational difference between US and Europe? You think from your personal experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of differences. There's also some similarities, but between my undergrad degree and then now my one semester of the master's that I've completed, I mean, logistically, the grading systems are different. So in the US, it's generally up to 100. Here in France, you get a score up to 20. But I will say that I was used to having in undergrad, I would generally have the same lecturer for one course. And that course would, meet either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Whereas my experience in France has been that the class schedule changes every week. There's not as much of a set schedule, and that we have different lecturers teaching, or different professors giving lectures, but all within the same course, which again could just be my specific program that I'm in here in France. But that's sort of the scheduling aspect of it, is I had more of a set schedule in the US. I also think that in the US, we had a lot more homework generally, or like assignments that we were doing on a weekly basis. So, if you have a science textbook, for example, answering the questions at the end of the chapters, then usually that was all graded assignments that we had to turn in. Whereas, again, my experience here in Europe has been there's generally just like 1 or 2 weeks of exams at the kind of towards the end of the semester, and there's less homework as you go. But I think the overall, the topics that they're teaching and everything, and the what they're expecting me to know in my master's here, I believe is similar to what I would be expected to learn for a master's in the US as well, even if the logistical scheduling of it is different.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. One last question to you. Could you share any challenge you faced during your academic journey and how you overcome them? If you have any, please share with our audience.
Yeah. Like you talked about, I think the getting over being rejected from places is definitely, there's a little bit of heartbreak that you get from that, of, putting all of this effort into applying to places and then not having anything come of it, is definitely, can get pretty easy to get down on yourself, and to, think that you're doing something wrong when in reality you're not doing anything wrong. It's just, you just have to keep applying and keep looking for new opportunities to apply to. I think another hard thing for me during undergrad was sort of balancing, I mean, this is not just in undergrad, but in general, but balancing being a scientist and wanting to, and being a student with having a life outside of that, and not getting caught up in science being your entire world. And that as much as we want the papers published and the validation, that we also need to take a step back and know that it's important to be getting enough sleep and to do sports and have your hobbies and see your friends. And so I think the balance of it is also a very common struggle that I've definitely gone through and I'm still going through right now, coming back to school after having worked for a little bit. And so I think my advice for that is just having people that know you well and that can sort of keep you grounded. Maybe people that don't work in science as well. I have a lot of friends that don't do science, and so they can kind of help you, when you're feeling like things aren't working out, and they can, again, keep you grounded.
Okay, Sabrina, one last question from our participant who is from Nepal. We want to know that is there any opportunity to participate in this program from Nepal? Is there an opportunity?
Yeah, so I assume it's the NIH postbac program. That is unfortunately only open to U.S. citizens or people with the permanent residence permit. However, the NIH, they do, it's pretty common to have visiting fellows come in for postdoctoral fellowships, as well as the NIH does offer some PhD programs that are in conjunction with U.S. universities. So you can be enrolled at a U.S. university, but do your research or a PhD at NIH. However, the postbac program specifically that I did is just for U.S. citizens or people that have the permanent residency. I guess I know that they offer the graduate partnership programs is what the PhD track is, where you can be enrolled at a U.S. university but do research at NIH. I think there's also plenty of opportunities if you're doing a PhD or I believe even medical school outside of the U.S. to come and do like a rotation at NIH as well. But the OITE website that I had shared, and if you just Google NIH OITE, they'll have lots of resources that talk about the different programs specifically.
Okay, Sabrina, I think the audience get his answer. And thank you for your interactive Q&A session, conducting an interactive Q&A session. And now I would like to request our participant to open your camera and introduce yourself to all of us, please.
Thank you. I'll put my email in the chat as well if people have other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I can start introducing myself and I can pass it to someone so everyone can get the opportunity to introduce themselves. Is that fine, Raman?
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. I am Bima and I'm joining from Tuk, which is in France, and it's lovely to see you all. So I will be passing this to Rabina.
Hello everyone, I'm Ravina and I'm also the Erasmus Masters student and I'm a colleague of Bima, Sabrina and as to Pratik.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry my camera is not good. So I'm a classmate of Sabrina, Ravina, and Bhima, like in the same cohort, and it's nice to see my classmate giving the presentation, and it's a very nice experience too. So I'll be passing the mic to Tanzimo, a friend.
Thank you so much, and good morning, afternoon, or evening to all. So I am Tanjimul Islam. So I'm born and brought up in Bangladesh, but I'm also the friend of this IDO cohort with Sabrina, Bima, Rubina, and Pratik. So that's my short introduction. I'm interesting to know and also introduce other guys. So I'm going to ask, I don't see the participants. Maybe ask you to introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Nazmul from Bangladesh. I am a master's. I am now doing my master's at Haji Muhammad Dana Science and Technology. I am interested to research on One Health with One Health, and that's why I am joining with this program.
Nazmul, you can nominate someone.
Please, Afia Afroz, introduce yourself in this program.
Okay, I think
Hello,
Afia
it's me, Sapana Kapchike from Nirampur, Chittoor. I am studying now Bachelor BBS in year second semester from Nepal. Thank you for joining me on this program.
I think don't need to mention it. Anyone go ahead if you want to introduce yourself. Just unmute your mic and tell us something about you.
Maybe Pradeep can do it. Pradeep, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Pradeep Chaudhary, and I'm from Nepal, and I'm studying in Bangladesh Agriculture University, undergraduate DBM. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think anyone can write your introduction and your background in the chat. Maybe we can continue with the presentation, Raman.
Okay, you can continue.
Yeah, I think people are feeling quite. Let me try sharing my screen. While I do so, you can everyone can write in the chat box about their name, the country they are coming from, and yeah, their background. It would be nice to see you as well. So please feel free to turn on your cameras. I don't see an option. Oh, okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Okay. Let me try open it so it works. Okay. Firstly, thank you, Sabrina, for that. It was really interesting to go and look through your journey again. It's something I think all the applicants will share or like will have like kind of that experience. From this particular webinar onward, I'll be talking about how you can prepare for your higher study. And I guess a lot of participants that they are joining are on their undergraduate degrees at the moment. So this might be a little bit helpful. A little bit about myself. I am Bima Thapa. I am currently doing my master's in infectious disease and One Health, which is where we are. All of our friends are from. I'm originally from Nepal, and before doing my master's degree, I was working as a research assistant for a nonprofit organization, which is the Center for One Health Research and Promotion. And I did my undergraduate degree in veterinary science, the Agriculture and Forestry University. And while I was doing so, I also did an internship, 9-month long internship with One Health Lesson. Okay, I'm having difficulties doing the next. Yeah, a bit about the program itself, which is the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master's Degree in Infectious Disease and One Health. It is supported by the European Union, and there are 3 founding universities. These 3 are the University Took, which is in France, the UAV in Spain, and the Hanover Medical School, which is in Germany. So the main aim and objective of this whole master program, LEADO, is to, have offer the students to have the opportunity to study about One Health, which incorporate the idea of human, animal, and the environment health. Okay, and here. Oh. There is a problem with doing the next. Let me figure it out. Sorry for that. For some reason, I cannot change my slide. Next. Let me figure that out. Okay. Yeah. I think it moved. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay,
Now.
thanks. So about the cohort itself is the 7th cohort, the IDO 2023-2025, which we are in at the moment. There are 22 students from different parts of the world, as you can see here in the map, which my friend Emma met, so I'm giving her credit. This was taken during after we had our first lecture in the University of Tuk, so it was a good one. So we are on the 7th cohort, the 23 to 25. So explaining more about the higher education itself, I think it's very important to ask two important question is what you want. And because 20 people, let's say a minimum of 15 people who are here and who are here at this moment for this webinar would like to go for a higher education, is that what I assume? And the first thing I think you would like to be clear about is what you want. Why do you want to go for higher education at the first place? And the second thing, which is very important, is to ask yourself that what you don't want as well, because I think the second one was very important for me to decide that I would like to go for education abroad, and it was very helpful for me as well to decide, okay, I'm gonna go get a master's degree for to go and explore the world of scientific world in the foreign land and to have more opportunities. So if you are going for a higher study, one thing that is very important is your application. So you have to work on your application, and there are some of the things that I'll be covering here. The most basic one is to, of course, have an education, or every one of us having an undergraduate degree which meets the credit hours. And this ECTS is something that the European communities follow. It's usually in the baseline of 180 to 240, but the undergraduate degree that we have, it should be okay to fulfill this credit hours. The other thing is passport, and this might sound very silly at the moment to put it in this slide, but it's very important because a lot of us might not have a passport because there's no need at the moment, but while applying for a lot of scholarship or a program like this, they ask for identity documents, and passport is one of them. So it's better you get it made, and it can take some time for us to prepare as well. The other thing that we really want to focus while applying to this higher education is the availability of funding. Coming from a developing nation, for myself, it was impossible, or likely, let's say, not possible at all to have go for a master's degree without a funding. So it was one of the main criteria, or one of the main thing that I would look for a specific program, and it might be a similar case for you. The other thing that you really want to focus or have work on is to have a plan, and which I will discuss further in the next slide as well. So these are the things that I'll be covering up for the application process, which you would be coming across when you apply for this or such programs. The first thing is, of course, the language proficiency. Since most of us don't come from a native English-speaking world, it is important to have go through certain, let's say, test of English language, And it is important as well to meet a certain criteria, because with each program, there are like a minimum eligibility criteria that you need to meet. For example, with the IDO itself, there was like, I remember it was something like 6 to 6.5 in each of the modules of reading, writing, speaking. So that was IELTS test. But depending upon several programs that you apply, the minimum score can be different. So you might want to check that. And it's important to get the score beforehand, so that when you are applying for a certain master's program or even a PhD, if you want to go further, it is one of the main requirements. And you can choose to do TOEFL or IELTS. What I see is IELTS is acceptable in the European program, but in most of the cases, my senior who are doing research program in the US, they did the TOEFL examination. The other thing is the validity of this test, which is just 2 years. So you have to be very mindful of the time frame as well, because after 2 years, your English language is gone. I mean, the validity of this particular test is not there. Okay, another thing that is required for application is your CV. Again, very important thing is what to include in your CV, and also to know what not to include. For example, you're applying for a certain ABC job, and you do not want to write things that is irrelevant and that does not correlate with what you want to do further. So if you are applying for a master's program, then you would like to showcase something of a similar education background, having a similar experience that would add up to your CV. And since you are at your undergraduate moment, and I know that Sapna is just in her first year of veterinary science, I think it's a very wonderful time to explore the world, what you can get at the moment, and then try filling that in your CV, so that likewise you can know where and how you can mold your further studies. The next thing is to be aware of the length of the CV. Nobody would like to go upon like let's say 7 or 10 page long CV, and nobody will have the time to go through that as well. So try to make it concise and precise. And there are different formats that you can follow. For me specifically, I followed the Europass CV format, which was very handy as well as easy to make, but at the same time be mindful that this can take some of the space and it can quite make your CV look long. But there are options in online. We can use tools like Canva or any other online sources to make your customized CV for yourself, and try to limit in the length. Okay. There is another thing that is required for your motivation letter, and this is, I think, very important during your application, where you are asked like why you are motivated for this particular program. For this, I would request, I would suggest people to have something like having your own story, because it's very important that you have your story expressed or written in your motivation letter. And if you don't have one, you rather find one. For me, I was working as a research assistant and in this non-profit organization, and the main thing that we're on rabies. And rabies was a very good model of One Health. So I knew what was going on and around and the issues that was happening in the world of rabies and what are the problems and the issues. So how I would like to, connect and how the solve and the coalition that is missing at the particular moment, and maybe having a good skill set of research and education would be important. So that's how I put in my motivation letter. And it can be anything for you. For example, you are doing this, let's say a lecture on bacteria or virus, and you think this is very interesting and you went on finding and learning more about it, and that kind of interests you. So, finding your story can be like a small inspiration or anything that you can, and then write it in a motivation letter. The other thing is length. Again, it's very important to limit it into a 1 page, or there will be also word limits for the application that you are making. And there will be guidelines that you can follow, like some of the basic things they will ask, like why do you want to do a master's degree and why this particular program. And the other thing is what next after you finish this master degree, or after you finish this particular program, what is the future that will look like for you, and which is also very important to address. And this is something that have been told again and again, is that to start early, which in my case, I think I was in the mid phase, but yeah, I would suggest for you guys to start early working on a motivation letter, and then when you're done with it, try sending it to people that you trust, like who can give your motivation letter very confidential. And then in my case, I shared it with my friends who were studying public health in the US. I was sending it to my mentor. I was sending it to my professor, so they can have a review of my motivation letter and give me particular tips on improving it. The next thing you are asked is the recommendation letter, most probably, is where you can get these from. Will be your teacher, either mentor, or it can be also your employer. And be mindful of, be very, very mindful of who you choose to recommend you, because that person is someone who knows you very well, who knows how your way of working is, and who can recommend you in the best possible way, so that he or she can recommend that, okay, this particular person, this particular student is someone you would like to have in a program. So with that confidence, I think I would suggest that be very mindful of who you pick to write a recommendation letter. The other thing, beside all these basic things like your CV, motivation letter, and recommendation letter, it is also important. I wouldn't say important, but I would say it would be additional that you have some experience working aside of your academic background. And for this, you can either try your hands-on internship, or it can be online certification courses that are available freely for students specifically, either Coursera. There's something like FunMOOC, which is especially for infectious disease. And you can also do volunteering exercises like this to make your CV more strong. In my case, when I was doing my undergraduate and I was almost at the end of my undergraduate degree, I was doing online internship with One Health Lesson, and I think it's really shaped like where I want to do and how I would like to go further with my professional career. And at the same time, I was also doing like a lot of online engagement. Like I created this YouTube channel, and I also used to do the Instagram live with lots of people coming from different research and scientific backgrounds. So to have the conversation initiated, and it's always something that the main point was like how I can give back to the community itself, and that will of course add value to your experience. So the key thing here is to start getting involved somewhere that aligns to the program that you want to apply, and have that experience. Okay, after you make your applications ready, the second step is, and if you get lucky, I hope you do, is to go to the interview round. And in this particular stage of application, you are required to be interviewed by people that are from the program. So maybe try preparing for basic questions like, tell me about yourself, what you do at the moment, why do you apply for this particular program? And it's very important that you know what the program is exactly about, so that you can tell them, okay, this is, for example, okay, you have a lab, something like this, XYZ, and I think I would like to learn and get more experience on this. I really like this aspect of the laboratory, or something like, okay, this university has a certain department, a certain unit that is working on some disease or some virus, and I find it very interesting, and I see myself doing that. So if you can pick something very particular about the university and tell, it can be lecture, it can be lecturer, anything, then it shows that you are interested and you have done your research, and you have a good background on that as well. and go through your motivation letter. The one you wrote during your application, the first stage, it's very important that you review it, because you cannot tell another story or come with another story. And, just make sure that you stick to the old motivation letter that you wrote in your application letter, because that's something they will go through. Of course, practice. Practice very, very, very well. This is something I would like to address, because I have my friend here, Pratik, and we were applying for the program together. So when we were called for interview, we used to practice a lot. I would interview him, he would interview me back. And we have our mentor, Dr. Chand, who would again evaluate us and then try to give some tips that was essential for the interview. So I would suggest that you practice, you rehearse how you do that. It's not that you get like a robotic, that, okay, you know everything and that, but it's about knowing your content, what you want to tell to the interviews. So it's very important you do your rehearsal. And the very other thing is be presentable. Put an effort to look good, to be professional. Of course, it's something most of us still that is not important, but I think for me, it's very important to look good, to be very presentable in time of interview, so that it kind of gave me a little confidence boost. Another thing is the deadline. There are several programs that is running every year, and there will be high chances that you might not be aware of the deadlines. So maybe you can put the deadlines of this particular program or this master's opportunity, and then plan accordingly your application. So it's very important that you keep aware of yourself of the deadlines that's there. Here are some of the programs that you can look into that is similar to the One Health. One of them is the Infectious Disease MSCR program, which is offered by the University of Edinburgh. And there's another program that I really, really liked, was the Epidemiology of Infectious Disease and Antimicrobial Resistance, which is from the University of Glasgow. And some other programs in Europe is like the DAD scholarship. You can go look through that as well. And for the Erasmus Mundus, you can search something like Erasmus Mundus catalog. Just type that in your Google, and it will pop up a screen where you can go to this particular here, Erasmus Education and Culture Executive Residency page, and there you can search all the programs that's the Erasmus Mundus offer. And at this time being, I think there are 216 programs that is being offered. But for students that are coming from science or health background, you can just write the keyword like health or science, then you can have the list of all the programs that is there. And the good thing is they will also have the deadline. They will also have the link to the particular program that you want to look through. So it's a very important tools. And very importantly, like Sabrina also again said, that was to start searching for similar programs that you would like to apply for. And it's very important you start that early. Okay, I've come to the end of my program, and I would like to end with some of the tips. One thing is to try applying for multiple programs, because chances are that you might not get to one particular program. So having a backup, not a backup, but like, if you apply for separate programs and you did not get to one, the chances you can get to another one. And in my case, what I did was like, I applied for 7 and 8 programs in which I did get accepted, but in other cases I did get accepted and didn't get the funding. So try applying for multiple programs. And when I say multiple programs, it doesn't mean that, okay, you want to do nutrition and then you want to go to other units like pediatrics. So it has to be relevant. Like your interests need to be relevant and similar to the program that you're applying. So be mindful about that as well, because it's a yearly thing. And if you didn't make it to one program, you cannot, I think, it would be useless to waste another year for searching for and doing the application again. Okay, and the second thing is find people who did it before. Like, let's say if you want to do an infectious disease and One Health program, which is there, then of course you would like to get connected with people who did it and who did that. For instance, I reached to a lot of alumni who did that and then had connection so that I know what the program is about. Is it something I really want to do for the next 2 years, and it's something that I see myself getting a degree on? So it's very important, and create connection. When you are connecting with these people who are broadening your network, it's very important for you to have a human side as well. For example, I mentioned like don't be a robot. Is like, okay, I'm applying for this, I need your help. That's not something very pleasant. You can say something like, okay, I've been following you for certain times, and I really like this part of you because I'm also looking forward to apply this, and maybe you can help. So a bit of change in the way of approaching can also make a very good difference. And the next thing is finding circles that support your growth. It's very important because when you are applying for this kind of programs, a lot of things can be like, because it is a long application process, it can take 3 to 4 months for the results to come. So during that time, you need to keep yourself very much pumped so that you have that continuous energy to apply. And it's important to be surrounded by people who do that. I was very fortunate. I had friends and families who were very supportive of what I wanted to do. So it made my journey more easier. The next thing is be patient, right? There were times I don't say I was very patient while I was applying. There were times I was very anxious about like, okay, the results hasn't come up. What if this doesn't turn out good? What if that is bad? So try being patient along with the journey, so it will keep you calm and motivated through the application. And another thing is have a plan. You need to have a plan like, okay, I am going to apply for higher education. What I'm going to do, have my IELTS score. Okay, ready. Have my CV ready. What things I can add up to my CV. Where do I want to study, and how do I want to approach the application? What are the people or which networks are there that can help me do that? So these particular things, if you can plan accordingly, it would be very helpful. And finally is manifest. For me, I think it really worked because when I was doing my undergraduate, I used to see seniors traveling around the world of Europe and also getting a degree that really interested me. So I would see something doing like this. For example, giving a webinar like this was something I envisioned myself doing 2 years before. I used to say, I'm going to get into the Erasmus Mundus program and I'm going to give webinars and tell about this program and that. So that kind of manifestation and that kind of energy like gets you through a lot of difficulties during your application. And it's very important that you have a vision, like a vision board of what you want to do and how you want to pursue your degree or your journey. Okay, that's for me. If you would like to connect, I'm available in the social media channels, anywhere, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube. You can connect me. And finally, I would like to thank my friend MD for giving me this opportunity, and Sila and even the FAYI for that. Okay, back to you, Rahman.
Thank you, Bima, for your very informative presentation. Now, I would like to request all of our audience, if they have any question to you, please, if you have any question, now you can ask.
And even if you don't have, you can always send me a connection or a request, and we can always have a conversation there. Yeah.
Bima, do you hear me?
Yes, Rahman, yes.
I think all the information is clear from your presentation, but one thing I want to know, is there any importance of research during I do my undergraduate course to get a scholarship like Erasmus Mundus or some other scholarship, their scholarship like that?
Oh, okay. So you are asking if it is important to have a research background?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it really depends upon the program you're applying. It would be very good and a very additional, thing to have a research background. And since infectious disease, like this master is more related to that particular field as well, it would be very good. But just because you haven't have that background doesn't mean that will prevent you from applying. Even in my case, I had a research background, but it was very limited to particular, when I was doing my work after my graduate and not during my undergraduate. So it is an important thing, but it is also something you can gain while doing your master's. And there can be other things that you can add to your CV, like getting an internship, which is not related to research, but a similar field of things that you do in the IDO program.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina, for that.
Yeah, I just put some things in the chat for like online, mostly free courses or certificates that I've done a couple of as well. And there's lots of resources there.
Yeah, looks very interesting. If I were you, I would go through those courses at the moment. So guys, you can go through as well.
Mahfouz, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. It's wonderful presentation. Am I clearly audible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Bima. Again, it's a very wonderful, and not sure that whether my camera is working properly. Anyway, thank you everyone, and also we have another cohort member, Anaka, and he is from Africa, so he's basically from Zimbabwe. So he's also joined with us. Welcome, Tanaka, again, once again. So all the students, you guys are joined here. So Bima actually put everything in her slides, so you have all the connections. So hope you can already took some notes, and you will have all the information to connect in future. If you have not question now, that's not, that is still fine. And for my end, I guess one thing is important if you want to come to Europe for your higher studies, that you learn languages, at least either French or Spanish. It might be helpful for you to have a wonderful journey. It's not only in academic arena, but also with explore all the available opportunities in these European communities. At least one language, either French or Spanish or whatever you actually prefer, along with the English language. So yeah, that's my suggestion to you, and I hope you enjoyed this session. And I want to give a big thanks all my cohort members to join today, including all the participants. So we hope that we will do some other session if possible in the coming years. And if you want to hear more from us, our experience in the European arena, and also with the including diversities and other things, and all of our cohort members, they're actually very knowledgeable. They all are brilliant here, and I hope you understand our caliber from this short webinar today. So yeah, that's from my end, and thank you for your patience hearing. And the floor is now to you, Mahfouz.
Okay, thank you, Tanjimul Haq, for sharing some extra information to our audience. I think it will be very helpful to our audience. And here already we share the YouTube link of Bima. I think all of our audience took a little visit in her YouTube channel, Instagram. And from our audience, if you have any question, this is your floor to ask any question specifically to Bima. She's ready to answer your question. Bima, from one of our audience, you want to know that what challenge you face when you started your journey, or when you want to be a higher studier in Europe from Asia. What challenge we face, especially for the people from Asia?
I think one of the challenge was it's a wholesome challenge, if I have to say, is having a right mentor for me, particularly because not everyone was interested to be mentoring you, and I was very fortunate to have one. The other thing, coming from background from Asia, would be like not having enough exposure with research or with other kind of internships, anything that's possible there. But like I said, and like Sabrina addressed again, is that try to seek opportunities and find opportunities that are there that you can do at your level. And then even if it's a volunteering or like just getting engaging and observing things that's going around will add up to your resume, or I will add up to your experience. The other challenge there, for sure, is the funding. You would like to go for different programs, but that will limit you. And to secure that, you need to have a good application. So it's very important that you do have the right mentor and also the right circle to do that.
Okay, thank you. I think you are right. It's a great thing to select mentor, and especially in Bangladesh, we feel that a good mentor is how important for everything you can want to do, and we feel it that a mentor is very much important for doing something great or doing something special. Uh, Thank you, Sabrina.
Raman, that was a question for me?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think no more question from our audience, and if there is no question, we can closing our session. Tanjimul bhai, do you hear me?
Yes, Mahfouz, everything is fine. You can go for the conclusion.
Okay. Thank you everyone, and for being a part of this insightful journey of One Health and Research program. And thank all the audience to engage with us, and especially thank to our speaker, especially Sabrina and Bima. We are very grateful to you that you give your valuable time to us and our audience. And on behalf of FAYI, we are very much grateful and incredible. I wish all the contributors success until the next time. And till then, take care and good evening. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.